Hi folks, this is Ela, and I have a new medium that I'm going to show you. Normally I'm all watercolor all the time here, but I also do a lot of stuff about tracing. I love doing city streets and construction sites and architecture, and I like this sort of graphic look with black outlines and detail. And I recently got a Gelli Plate. And what it does, it allows you to do monoprints, and it allows you supposedly to do photo transfers. Although none of the photo transfers I've done have turned out. You can just barely read that writing. And this was my most successful out of several tries. So I decided to go with what I know, which is tracing. Here's my new favorite hack. So I've got my Gelli Plate, and I have my photo here. This is the photo that I want to transfer. And when this is pulled up on my laptop, before printing it out, you want to decrease the saturation, and you want to increase the exposure, and you also want to flip it horizontally. So you flip it horizontally because when you do a print, you're going to reverse the image. When you pull the print off, it's going to turn everything backwards. So you have to make the photo that you trace from backwards, so that once it's printed, it will be forward. This is the image that I can trace from. So I'm going to use an acrylic marker for my dark outlines. And there's several brands of acrylic marker that I like. This is my giant bag of acrylic markers. We've got Deco Color. This is a really good brand. These are all acrylic paint, and I do these prints with acrylic paint. So it all just kind of melds together as one. This is Molotow, Molotow, one for all. This is another acrylic marker. These are kind of expensive. I think these are about $6. And then if you want to get something cheap, I recommend BETEM. I think this was $15 or maybe $20 for a big pack. It was a while ago that I bought them, but they're still working. They're still good. And, two of these was about the price, same price as a big pack of a variety of these. But I do get to pick out the exact color that I want when I get the individuals. These also have the bonus of having a big broad tips on one end, so I can color in larger areas. And then if I want detail, then I have a nice fine tip right here. So when I'm tracing out the image, I'll probably use the fine tip. And I literally just draw on the plate, and I'll show you some examples of ones I've done previously before I actually demonstrate. So this is the first one I did that really turned out. And I used a very dark green to trace out these lines. And once that dried, and it dries very quick, then I just painted, I think I used a brayer, and I painted this phthalo green mixed with some white on top of all this area, and used a brush for the detail around the edges. And then I mixed a blue and just kind of removed some of the paint with some water up here at the top. After I printed it the first time, I added this brown and this paler green right here. And that was it. You do sometimes have to do touch-ups. There are parts that sometimes don't peel off. So I'm going to demonstrate. You can see this is translucent. And if I put it over the image like that, so I have my acrylic marker already picked out. This is sort of a very deep earthy red, and I can literally just start tracing. And I think the most important thing is that not move your head. So if I move my head around, my view of where I'm supposed to trace is going to change. If there's anything stuck on the plate after I pull a print, I like to just use a big piece of tape and literally just put the tape on the print and pull it off. And that's the easiest, cleanest way to remove any dried paint. So I'm just going to start right now and let you watch what I'm doing. So I literally just go through, and it is a sort of a blobby line. But that's okay. Gives it character. I think that kind of goes like that. I wouldn't want to try and do portraits or anything like that with this. I think it would be too tricky. Any place that I see dark area, That's where I'm going to draw. And sometimes the line kind of creeps in or moves a little bit after I draw it. So it has to be pretty thick for it to stay. And if I need to go back in and touch in a line to make it thicker, I can. Once the paint dries, it's stuck, it's there. It's not going to move. If I have a hard time seeing an area, I can pull out a reference photo. This is flipped the other way, but I can still kind of get a sense of what's going on. Like I can see there's this rear view mirror that this guy's looking into, and I wasn't quite sure what's going on. It's not going to look exactly like the photo, and that's okay. If my marker starts getting too thin, I can shake it, push on the tip. That'll get the paint flowing again. Sometimes it comes too thick and heavy. You can kind of wipe it away with your finger while it's still wet. Remember, you do have artistic license. There are happy accidents. This is still a collaboration between you and the materials. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be fun. It does help to know how to draw. If you know how to draw and you can trace, then you can do all sorts of cool stuff. Sometimes I roll the pen a little bit if it's getting that streaky quality. So I think that's it. I think that's good. That's my transfer. Here it is. It reflects in parts, but you can see I've got that dark red line and it's still wet. So I'm going to let this dry. Okay, I am back and it's been much more than a minute. I colored in all the parts, and the thing that you should keep in mind is that this is like an upside down cake. Right, I did that drawing. You guys saw me draw on this plate. And then on top of that drawing, I painted these orange cone shapes. And then I continued to mix a bunch of different colors. I believe in mixing grays and browns. And so I started with my brightest, purest color, which is orange. And then I added some cerulean blue to it and kept mixing in a little bit of white to get the more pale colors, and then more yellow to get this sort of yellow tractor color. And then in the very, very end, I put in the black. And I could be much messier with the black because I had painted all the colors surrounding the black already. So if the black got outside of its area, you won't really see it. This is dry now. I'm at the stage where I'm going to put a layer of paint underneath, and I usually like to go with white. Then I'm going to put the paper on and I'm going to let it dry a long time. Here, this is my white. And I got my brayer. And I'm just going to put a thick layer on there. I am not shy with the paint. You're supposed to be really thin with the paint on if you do the photo transfer, but when you're sticking it to your paper, you want it to be gooey because it's acting both as a pigment. It's going to fill in any cracks that were visible in your picture, and it's also acting kind of like a glue. This is kind of a thin brown paper bag. Got it ready to go. I'm going to do it on the bag. And not the most archival choice. So now I can just let this dry. I can also roll it with a brayer. Got paint on my brayer. I'm cleaning off the paint and also making sure that these are fully attached at the same time. I'm just going to let this hang out somewhere where it's relatively warm and just let everything just dry out. Let it get completely and totally dry, and then when I peel it off, you'll see what I meant by the upside down cake effect. Okay, so this has been drying for a couple of hours. I had it sitting in the sun. It is totally dry. I can tell because it doesn't feel cold or damp at all. So I'm going to pull off the paper. And this is part of why I love printmaking, is because there's always an element of surprise. I mean, I can kind of tell what it's going to look like, but it's always a little bit different. And this is why they call it pulling a print, because you're literally pulling the print off. And I can see there's some areas already where it wants to separate. Hopefully it's mostly on the edge. We will see what it looks like. You can see some of the paint wants to stay on the plate, even with all that waiting. You can go from different directions too. Some of that silver paint stayed on the plate. I can remove that with tape later. Just gonna keep going from the outside in. I keep seeing patterns where, ooh, does not like that. Trying to get everything perfectly smooth is kind of a pain in the butt. Looking for those areas of least resistance. You're literally pulling it off. That's it. So it's kind of cartoony. It's kind of fun. It has sort of a looseness about it. And all these areas that are white I can go into with a paintbrush and touch it up. And you know, it's fun. There's something really, it's like opening a present. So there it is. That's how I like to do jelly plates. Ta-da!